आरम्भं कुर्मः। वन्दे तं मदवारणेन्द्रवदनं मद्भागधेयाकृतिं शुण्डादण्डसुचालनेन जगतां मायान्तरायामयान् विद्राव्यप्रणतिप्रसन्नहृदयो यो नुक्त एव स्वयं रक्षत्यन्वहमात्मनोतिबिरुदं वैद्येशपुत्राभिधम्। नमस्काराः। Do a little of Punaravartana and continue with today's portion for a long conversation. So now these were pointed out by Damanaka. We saw that yesterday. Ye sevaka prabhuhita grahyavakya visheshatah. All this is about seva dharma. I would just like to remind you, Damanaka is talking about seva dharma. So when Karataka asked him about how is it that he knows seva dharma, he mentions that when he was young, he playfully learnt the seva dharma when a lot of sadhus were visiting his father. Tatotsange kridata maya yachrutam tasya saram hridi sthapitam ityuktam Damanakena pushti karoti idanim swapaksham. So he is now just making sure that it's not just an empty claim of Damanaka, but he's elucidating, he's expounding seva dharma so that Karataka knows for sure that he's aware of things. Ye sevakav prabhuhita grahyavakya visheshatah ashrayet parthivam vidvans tadvarena nanyatha. So a wise man who is interested in taking ashraya in a king has to approach the king through an appropriate sevaka. And how should that sevaka be? He should be a prabhuhita, interested in the real welfare of the king. Also, grahyavakyaha saha bhavet. So he should also be a grahyavakya. That is, his vakyas are heard by the king, are taken by the king, are received by the king. So etadrishanam sevakanam dwarenaiva. Only through these sevakas should a wise man think of approaching a king. Yona vetti gunanyasya natam seveta panditah bhavatyajivanam tasmat. Yona vetti gunanyasya natam seveta panditah dahi tasmat phalam kinchit sukrishtad usharadiva. So there is no point in serving a king who does not appreciate the sevaka. The one who does not know the gunas of the sevaka, he is not to be served at all. Tasmat kinchidapi phalam na labhyate. Katham sukrishtat usharat yatha phalam na labhyate. So however much you plow a kshara bhumi, a barren land, the way it will not give you any result, the same way a king who does not know to appreciate the qualities of his sevakas will not yield you any fruit, any result at all. Dravya prakriti-hinopi sevya sevya gunanvitaha bhavatyajivanam tasmat phalam kalantaradapi. So sevyaha raja, so that king who is worthy of being served because he has sevya guna, so he is having a lot of sevya guna. Sevya gunena yaha anvitaha vartate yuktaha yaha raja vartate saha dravya prakriti-hinopi. Even when he is not having enough of material wealth and he does not have prakriti, what is the definition for a prakriti in the context of an artha shastra? Swamyamatyo puram rashtram koshadando suhrit tatha sapta prakritayaha yetaha. We saw that Swami, the king, Amatya, the minister, and Puram, the territory. Puram is the fort, Rashtra is the territory, and Kosha is the treasure, and Danda is military, and then allies. So even a king who does not have all these things can be served. And the result of serving such a king might not be immediate, but kalantarat nishchaya rupena bhavati tadapi ajivanam bhavishyati. So, and it will last long. अपिस्थाणुवदासीनः शुष्यन् परिगतः क्षुधा नत्वेवानात्मसम्पन्नात् वृत्तिमीहेत पंडितः. So even when one is dying of hunger, he can lie there like a log of wood and not do anything and just perish, rather than serving a king who is not fine, who does not have good qualities, who does not have who is anatma sampanna, who does not have a fine mind, who does not have a fine intellect. Rather than serving a king, one can perish. Is the idea here. Sevakaha swaminam dveshti kripanam parushaksharam atmanam kimsana dveshti sevya sevyam navettiyaha. So kripanam parushaksharam swaminam sevakaha dveshti. So Sevaka invariably develops a hatred towards a Swami who is Kripana, who is a Mysore, and also a Parushakshara, also a Katubhashi, who does not know to speak well. He is always harsh. So Sevaka naturally develops a hatred towards him. But then that should also turn see if that Sevaka contemplates a bit, he should understand that he can direct that hatred towards himself. After all, it was his fault that he chose such a Swami. Saha sevya sevyam navetti. He does not know who is to be served and who is not to be served, and for that he has to blame himself. And this hatred which is directed towards the Swami can be directed as well as at himself. Yamashritya na vishramam kshudartha yanti sevakaha sorkavan nrupatistyajyaha sada pushpaphalopisan. So the way the arka plant is ignored, the same way, even though it has very fine flowers, it bears flowers and fruits, but still we do not treat the arka plant the way we treat, for let us say, for an example, patala kusuma, rose plant, or a kamala kusuma. We don't treat it like that. It's generally ignored. So the same way, a king has to be shunned, ignored. What kind of a king? Yamashritya na vishramam kshudartha yanti sevakaha. Yam ashritya. So taking refuge in whom the sevakas are not treated well and they don't have proper rest and they are not fed well. Such a king has to be shunned. Jiveti prabruvan proktaha krutya krutya vichakshanaha karoti nirvikalpam yaha sabhaved rajavallabhaha. So kaha rajavallabhaha bhavet, kaha rajavallabham bhavitum arhati. So who is qualified to become a rajavallabha, a person that is close to the king, who can win over the king's preeti, king's affection. Yaha proktaha san. So when instructed to accomplish a particular task, how does he accomplish the task? Jiveti prabruvan. So he is always praising the king, saying, long live the king. Jiveti tvam jiva chiram jiva iti prabruvan yevam vadan yaha nirvikalpam karoti karyam nirvikalpam karoti. He does accomplish the task. He accomplishes the task unhesitatingly. There is no hesitation on his part. Also, he is kritya kritya vichakshana. He knows what is to be done and what is not to be done. What is kritya, what is doable, what is not doable, what is to be done, what is not to be done. He knows all this. Saha rajavallabhaha bhavet. He is the qualified person to whom the king develops an affection over time. Vameva prabhu prasadajam vittam sadpatre yo niyojayet vastradyancha dadhatyange sabhaved rajavallabhaha. So prabhu prasadajam vittam. So the vitta that is obtained as a prasada of the prabhu, which the prabhu has lovingly given. So he has to spend it in right places. Okay. So satpatre yaha niyojayati. Also vastradyancha ange yaha dadhati. So also the one who expresses his gratitude when given something, like vastra, abhushana, something. So he wears it and he shows that he is very happy with it. So evam yaha pravartayati saha rajavallabhaha bhavet. So the one who acts in this manner is sure to become the favorite of a king. Antahpuracharais Sardham Yona Mantram Samachare, Nakalatrair Narendrasya Sabhaved Rajavallabha. So the one who does not talk confidential matters with those who are in the Antapura, such a person becomes close to the king. So I think we saw till this verse, and this is the new verse for the day. Dyutam yo yamadutабham halam hala halopamam pashyeddaran vrithakaran sabhaved rajavallabha. Dyutam yo yamadutабham halam hala halopamam pashyeddaran vrithakaran sabhaved rajavallabha. Dyutam yaha Yamaduta abham halam halahala upamam pashyet daran vritha akaran saha bhavet rajavallabha. Vichedaha. So what is told here? Yaha dyutam yamadutabham pashyati. So the one who considers Dyuta Krida, gambling, okay, like Yamadutas. Okay. So Yamaduta Abha, the one who sees Dyuta in the likeness of the messengers of Yama. So it means what? The one who dreads gambling. Okay. So how will somebody treat Yamaduta? One is always frightened, terribly frightened of Yamadutas. One would never imagine engaging with them, right? So this Sevaka considers gambling like Yamaduta. Okay, the person considers gambling like in the form of Yamaduta. And then halam halahalopamam pashyati. So how does he see hala? Hala is madhyam, madhyapana, wine. Okay. So how does he consider madhyapana? He thinks it is visha. It is like halahala visha. Halam halahalopama. So that is equivalent to, or that is like halahala visha. It is a bhayankara visha. So, and then daran vrithakaran pashyati. And now how does he look at the wives of the king? Vrithakaran. Vritha is waist. Okay. Akara is figure or form. So he sees his wives to be of, they are just an empty show. Okay. Their figure does not attract him. It does not bother him at all. They might be great beauties. Okay. But their external appearance, their figure, their form does not bother him at all. That's like an empty show to him. That's just nothing. So, daran yaha evam pashyati. Yaha dyutam yamadutabham pashyati. Halam halahalopamam pashyati. Daran vrithakaran cha pashyati. Saha rajavallabha bhavet. So he is sure to become the king's favorite. Now, there is a usage here, daran. I think I mentioned this when we encountered the Shabda Kalatra. We saw this Kalatram pada we saw. So what is the meaning of the word Kalatram? Wife. Bharya, Patni. There is an interesting aspect in Samskrita. It mentioned that we have, Shabdas referring to a wife in all the three lingas in Sanskrit. There is a masculine Shabda, there is a Pullinga Shabda, Strilinga Shabda, and Napumsakalinga Shabda. Napumsakalinga Shabda is Kalatram. So, and Pullinga Shabda is there. Daraha, the Pullinga Shabda, and it is a Nitya Bahuvachana Shabda. Okay. So you cannot say there is no usage for Daraha. The usage is always in Bahuvachana. So we can only say Daraha. Okay. Daraha, Daran, Daraihi, Darebhyaha, Evameva, Rupani Bhavanti. There is no Ekavachana, Dvivachana Rupa at all. So it is always in Bahuvachana. So one wife or many wives, you have to say Dara. If you are going to introduce your wife, you have to say Yete Mama Daraha. That's how you introduce. Okay. So Daran Vrithakaran Pashyati. So Daran here is in Dvitiya Bahuvachana. Vrithakaran, empty figure, does not attract him at all. Saha Rajavallabha. He is sure to become the king's favorite. Yuddhakale grago yasyat sada prishtanugah pure prabhor dwara shrito harmye sabhaved rajavallabhaha. Yuddhakale grago yasyat sada prishtanugah pure prabhor dwara shrito harmye sabhaved rajavallabhaha. Yuddhakale agragaha yaha syat sada prishtha anugaha pure prabhoho dwara ashritaha harmye saha bhavet rajavallabhaha. So what is this? So now he says important qualities for a sevaka. Yuddhakale tena katham bhavitavyam, pure katham bhavitavyam, harmye cha katham bhavitavyam. There are three states that are mentioned here. So how does a sevaka behave during wartime? How should he behave? What is his ideal behavior? And what during normal times, when he is inside the pura, when he is inside the durga, inside the fort, that is inside a safe territory, how should he behave? And how should he behave in harmya? Harmya is the palace of the king. Okay. So yaha yuddha kale, yuddha samaye agragaha syat. So he has to lead the king during yuddha kala. Lead in the sense he has to be before the king to die. Okay, so agre yaha gacchati saha agragaha. The one who walks, leads and walks before you is an agraga. So yuddha kale agragaha syat. So yuddha kale he has to be an agraga, someone who walks before the king and is ready to die before the king dies. Pure, so inside the fort, inside the territory, sada prushthanugaha. He is always at the back. Okay. So he is always an anuyayi to the king. He does not walk before the king. He always follows the king when it is safe. Okay. So at that time, if he leads the king, that's a huge disrespect, dishonor to the king, right? So the king should walk and then all his entire retinue follows him. Harmye, so in the palace, Prabhoho dwarashritaha syat. He has to do the role of a pratihara. He has to become his gatekeeper and wait for his orders all the time, and also divert appropriate people to him. So he has to understand who is to be given an audience with the king, who is not to be given an audience with the king, etc. And he has to do that, and for that he has to become a pratihara, a gatekeeper. I think there was a question. Pratihara means a gatekeeper. Okay. So yuddha kale agragaha bhavet, pure prishthanugaha bhavet, harmye dwarashritaha bhavet, evam yaha bhavati saha rajavallabhaha bhavishyati. So he will become the close aid of the king. Dveshi dvesha paro nityam ishtanam ishtakarma krit yonaro naranathasya sabhaved rajavallabhaha. Dveshi dvesha paro nityam ishtanam ishtakarma krit yonaro naranathasya sabhaved rajavallabhaha. Dveshi dveshaparaha nityam ishtanam ishtakarma kriti yaha naraha naranathasya saha bhavet rajavallabhaha. So dveshi, dveshaparaha. So those who are the dveshis of the king, those who are the enemies of the king, towards them he should also nurture dvesha. He has to nurture hatred towards the enemy of the king. He cannot say that after all he is your enemy, I am actually really friendly with him, etc. That does not play well with the king. So if somebody is not liked by the king, if somebody happens to be the enemy of the king, this person also has to nurture hatred. Dveshi dvesha paraha. Nityam, and this is always, okay, it does not change anytime. And ishtanam, how should he behave with those whom the king likes, to those who whom the king has a liking, or those who are the bandhus or the people around the king, for them, he has to be an ishta karma krit. He has to accomplish all their tasks for the sake of the king. So Sevaka is not only a person who is accomplishing tasks for the king, but also for all those who are liked by the king. Ishtanan ishtakarma kriti yaha bhavati saha rajavallabhaha bhavet. Yaha naraha naranathasya. Naranatha means a king. Naranam nathaha. Yaha naraha, yaha janaha naranathasya dveshi paraha bhavati. So the one who has dvesha towards the dveshis of the king, and the one who accomplishes all the favorite tasks of those who are the king's favorite, such a person becomes Rajavallabha in no time. Saha Rajavallabha bhavet. Proktah pratyuttaram naha viruddham prabhuna chayaha na samipe hasatyuchai sabhaved Rajavallabha. Proktah pratyuttaram naha viruddham prabhuna chayaha na samipe hasatyuchai sabhaved Rajavallabha. Proktah pratyuttaram na aha viruddham prabhuna chayaha na samipe hasati uchaihi saha bhavet Rajavallabha. Yaha prabhuna viruddham proktaha api. So the one who, when spoken in a harsh way and when spoken in a disregarding way, okay, even when spoken like that, yaha pratyuttaram nabraviti, the one who does not speak a word back. Okay, he's not supposed to, give nice comebacks and all. He's just supposed to shut up. He should never talk a word, even when he is insulted. Okay. Viruddham proktaha api pratyuttaram yaha na aha, yaha na braviti. Also, samipe uchaihi na hasati, and he should not laugh aloud in front of the king, near the king. When around the king, he should always be composed. He cannot laugh aloud. So laughing aloud will again be a sign of disrespect. So he's not supposed to show that. Evam yaha bhavati saha Rajavallabhaha bhavet samipe uchaihi yaha na hasati saha Rajavallabhaha bhavet. I'm sorry. Sorry, I think there is a repetition of those slides. I'll have to cut them and upload it. Na kuriyan naranathasya yoshidbhis saha sangatim na nindam na vivadancha sabhaved Rajavallabhaha. Na kuriyan naranathasya yoshidbhis saha sangatim na nindam na vivadancha sabhaved Rajavallabhaha. Na kuryat naranathasya yoshidbhihi saha sangatim na nindam na vivadancha saha bhavet Rajavallabha. Na kuryat yaha naranathasya yoshidbhihi saha sangatim na kuryat. So the one who does not develop any kind of relationship with the women of the king. So we saw this earlier also. Okay. So antahpuracharai sardham yona mantram vadati. So the one who does not talk confidential matters with antahpurachara stris or the wives of the king, he becomes a Rajavallabha. That is again repeated. Yoshidbhis saha sangatim na kuryat. He does not have any kind of relationship with them. It is better that he stays away from them. Nindam na kuryat. Also, he is not supposed to do ninda of these people in front of the king. That is very important. Either in front of the king, or you go to them and you start insulting them. It is not to be done. It is very dangerous. The king can crib about the woman all the time. Okay, he can do it to the Vidushaka. Okay, or the mantri, usually a close accomplice of the king, plays the role of vidushaka in Samskrita natakas. We might have seen that. So the king is usually complaining of the women in his life. The king can do it, but this person cannot join in complaining with the king and saying that, oh yeah, she is like that. Okay, that's all. That will be an insult to the king, right? So that we observe even in everyday life today. So a person can crib. Okay? The man can crib about his wife or love or anybody, but the friend is not supposed to join him in complaining. That will be a problem. Nindam na kuriyat, vivadancha na kuriyat. Also, no arguments with those people. Evam yaha pravartayati saha rajavallabhaha bhavet. All these are very, very, very simple verses. Easily understandable. So not much of explanation is needed. Karatakaha aha. Athabhavams tatra gatva. Fine, I have understood your point now. So Karataka says, Athabhavams tatra gatva. Kim tavat prathamam vakshyati. Tat tavat uchyata. Damanakaha aha. So Karatakaha aha. So Karataka says, Athabhavan. Okay, then Bhavan. Tatra gatva. After going there in the sense, after approaching Pingalaka, tavat prathamam vakshyati. Kim tavat prathamam vakshyati. What is it that you are going to say at the beginning? Okay. What is your opening statement? Kim tavat prathamam vakshyati. Tat tavat uchyata. So please tell that to me. Please share that. What is going to be your opening statement? What are you going to speak? Now there is vakshyati. This is a litlakara prayoga. Okay, so vach dhatu vartade. Vakti rupam bhavati. Latlakara ekavachane vakti vaktaha adadigana dhatu. Even yesterday, I think I mentioned about adadigana, dvitiyagana, where there is no vikarana pratyaya added in between. So we have atti, vakti, vetti. All these dhatus belong to the second gana, adadigana. Now this vach also belongs to the same gana. When you decline it in the future tense, litlakare vakshyati, vakshyati, vakshyataha, vaksyanti. So kim tavat bhavan prathamam vakshyati. What is it that you will be saying? Okay, this litlakara prayoga. Please make a note of it. Tat tavat uchyatam. So please tell that to me now. Please speak about that. Damanakaha aha. Damanaka says. Uttaraduttaram vakyam vadatam samprajayate suvristi guna sampannat bijad bijamivaparam. Uttaraduttaram vakyam vadatam samprajayate suvristi guna sampannat bijad bijamivaparam. So he's again making a very important point. He says that somebody who is going to have a conversation on such an important matter, he cannot plan the entire conversation in his mind, right? Because a conversation is always based upon the response that you receive for what you speak. So a different response could change the course of the conversation entirely and it could lead somewhere. So nobody who is intelligent will prepare for the whole thing in one's own head. One has to have the confidence in one's own abilities to be able to do that on the fly as the situation demands. That is what Damanaka says. Uttarat uttaram vakyam vadatam samprajayate suvrishti guna sampannat bijat bijam iva aparam. Says vadatam uttarad uttaram vakyam samprajayate. Uttarat uttaram vakyam. So whatever is the response, okay, vadatam uttarat. So those who are being spoken to, those who are speaking, from their answer, from their response, uttaram vakyam. Uttaram, first uttara means response. Okay. Vadatam uttarat uttaram vakyam samprajayate. The next sentence, uttara here refers, the second uttara refers to next. Okay, what is to be spoken next? Uttaram vakyam vadatam uttarat samprajayate. So it is born out of the response of the person who is speaking. Right? And what is this compared to? Suvrishti guna sampannat bijat aparam bijam iva. So Let us imagine a bija, a seed that is well nourished by good rains. Suvrishti, nice rains have nourished and made a good quality bija. Let us think. Suvrishti guna sampannat, suvrishti guna yuktat bijat aparam bijam iva. Like a good seed is born from a good seed that is well nourished by the rains. Similarly, a fine vakya is born from the response of the person who is involved in the conversation. It cannot be a one-way street. Is the idea. Suvrishti guna sampannat bijat. So a bija that is having fine qualities that have been put into the bija by good rains. Suvrishti guna sampannat bijat yatha aparam bijam jayate. The way another seed is born from a fine seed, similarly, vadatam uttarat uttaram vakyam samprajayate. So those who are involved in the conversation, based on their response, the next vakya that is to be spoken is born. So what can I say? The conversation, the way it is going, the flow of the conversation decides what is spoken, not whatever is planned in one's own mind. If we go like that, no dialogue, especially important political dialogues and things like that, will never work like that. He continues, Damanaka continues. Apaya sandarshanajam vipattim, upaya sandarshanajam cha siddhim, medhavino niti guna prayuktam, purasphurantim iva varnayanti. Apaya sandarshanajam vipattim, upaya sandarshanajam cha siddhim, medhavino niti guna prayuktam, purasphurantim iva varnayanti. Apaya sandarshanajam vipattim, upaya sandarshanajam cha siddhim, medhavinaha niti guna prayuktam, puraha sphurantim iva varnayanti. So he says that, my conversation is not entirely planned, but I can give you the crux of what I am going to speak. What is it that I will be talking about? I can give you the Sara. So he's not telling about him. He's saying, what will Medhavis do? So in such an opportunity, an intelligent person, what does he do? Medhavinaha apaya sandarshanajam vipattim, upaya sandarshanajam siddhincha, niti guna prayuktam purasphuranti iva varnayanti. Sphurantim iva varnayanti. So they describe this. They talk about this. What? Apaya sandarshanajam vipattim. So apaya here is used in the sense of a policy that is not an unintelligent policy, is apaya. Upaya is the right policy. A policy that is aniti yukta policy is an upaya, the right policy, which goes along niti, okay, which is born out of samyak darshana, which is born out of niti. That is an upaya. And apaya is the opposite of this, a bad policy. So apaya sandarshana jam vipattim. So a vipatti is trouble. So how is the trouble born? It is born out of a bad policy. Apaya sandarshana jam. Apaya sandarshanat jayate iti apaya sandarshana ja. So that which is born out of applying, here sandarshana means seeing. Okay, seeing nicely is sandarshana. Now here seeing means applying. Okay, so applying a bad policy. Whatever is born out of that. What is born out of a bad policy? Vipatti. So this Medhavi expounds this. He talks about bad policies and the troubles that come from them, from the application, usage of such policies. Apaya sandarshanajam vipattim. Also, upaya sandarshanajam cha siddhim. Siddhi is success. So, upaya sandarshanaja. So success that is born out of employing right policies, fine policies. This is spoken about. This is expounded by Medhavis. And how do they talk about this? Niti guna prayuktam vacham purasphuranti miva. So puraha sphuranti miva. Puraha purataha. Okay. So whoever they are talking to, for example, the person is addressing the king. So this should become purasphuranti, means it is very, very clear, crystal clear for the king. So all that he says in a very, very roundabout manner and there is no clarity on what he is talking, it should not be like that. It should be very clear. So it is purasphuranti. It's like it's glowing in front of the king. So much of clarity is there. Niti guna prayuktam vacham. Okay. So here vacham is understood. They are speaking words, okay, which is Niti guna prayukta. Okay. It is uttered with niti. Okay. It has got the niti guna, the fine characteristic of niti in it. Such words are spoken by Medhavis. Medhavinaha niti guna prayuktam purasphuranti miva varnayanti. Kim varnayanti? Medhavin apaya sandarshanajam vipattim upaya sandarshanajam siddhim. So the troubles that come out of implementing a bad policy and the success that one can get when one applies right policies. All these are told by Medhavis. So then we have to understand Damanaka is planning to do all this. He continues. Ekesham vachi shukavadanyasham hridi mukavat hridi vachi tathanyasham valgu valganti suktayah. Ekesham vachi shukavat anyasham hridi mukavat hridi vachi tathanyasham valgu valganti suktayah. Ekesham vachi shukavat anyasham hridi mukavat hridi vachi tatha anyasham valgu valganti suktayah. So he also says that not everybody is capable of this. Okay, so it is not that a person who is an expert, let us say he has studied Niti Shastra for a lot of time, he need not have the necessary quality to impress the king. That alone is not important. That alone is not sufficient to impress the king, because he should know how to present it. Right? That is why he says, Ekesha Suktayaha, all these Subhashitas. Okay, Suukti, okay, nice words, okay, nice utterances, okay. In the sense, traditional wisdom, it is there with many people, right? Many people have grasped and understood traditional wisdoms at various levels. So for a few, Ekesham, Vachi Shukavati Suktayaha Vartante. So the Suktis are there in their tongue, okay. Tesham Vachi, in their vak, it is there, okay, but it is there only in their vak, okay. That is Shukavat Vartante, Shukavat Vachi Vartante. Just like a parrot will repeat whatever you teach the parrot, it will repeat it very nicely, okay. Similarly, there can be people who have learnt Niti Shastra and they know, let us say, a lot of shlokas by heart, they have learnt it, and a lot of, policy things, they know it by heart. So they can repeat it like a parrot. But the policy or the Shastra Sara is not there in their heart. It is there only in their tongue. Vachi matram vartante. Anyasham, for a few others, kridi mukavat vartante. So it is there in their heart. Okay, it is there in their heart. They have grasped the essence of the Shastra in a fine manner. But then mukavat vartante, the way it stays inside the heart of a dumb person. Muka is a dumb person, okay, the one who cannot speak. So it is there in the heart of a muka. Unfortunately, he cannot speak, in the sense he cannot express it well. Anya hridi muka tatha anyasham vachi suktayaha valgu valganti. So, and in the case of a few others, vachi suktayaha valgu valganti. So it is there in their tongue, okay. but it is there in a very, very beautiful manner. Okay, it is so attractive. Okay, Valgu Valganti means it is expressed beautifully. It is expressed beautifully through certain people who have grasped the essence in their heart, and they also know to expound it very well. So they have both these talents. They have understood it. They also know to intelligently express it. Both of them are essential qualities in order to be a policy advisor to the king. So he cannot just be an intelligent person who knows everything but does not know how to speak. See, because the king will never prefer a middleman. Okay, you cannot say that this person is very intelligent but he is very shy. So let me go to his house and take notes and take his ideas for state policy and then come and convey it to you, Mr. King. The king won't agree, right? So the king needs a confidential, close aid. So he has to have both these qualities. He has to have a very good grasp of these Niti Shastras. Also, he should be able to express his ideas in a clear manner. Okay, and in an attractive way, so that it is pleasing for the king, so that it is not a boring lecture for the king. Okay, so that is important. Anyasham vachi suktayaha valgu valganti. So they beautifully they dance around the tongue of these a very few people. So what is the idea? Then continuing. So Damanaka assures Karataka that you don't worry. Nachaham aprapta kalam vakshye. Don't worry, I'm not going to talk at a time when I know is not the right time. So aprapta kalam, when kala has not arrived, I know the most opportune moment to intervene. Only then I will talk. Don't worry about that. I know it very well. Aprapta kalam na aham vakshye. I will never talk when it is not the right time. Akaranitam maya nitisaram pituh purvam utsangam hi nishevata. Maya nitisaram akaranitam. I have heard the Niti Sara very well. He told this earlier also. Putra akaranitam pituhu purvam utsangam hi nishevata. So when I was living, okay, so nishevana it comes from seva dhatu only. You add the upasargani, it becomes nishevana. So when I was present in the lap of my father Utsanga, okay, so I learned it. So I have learned it very well. I have heard it very well. Akaranitam maya samyak shrutam bhavata chintana kartavya. You don't have to worry at all. Okay, if at all you are worrying, there is no need for you to worry. Pituh purvam utsangam hi nishevata maya niti saram akaranitam aprapta kalam naham vakshye. I will never speak when it is not the right time. Why? Immediately there is a verse that he quotes. Aprapta kalam vachanam brihaspatirapi bruvan labhate bahvava jnanam apamanancha pushkalam. Aprapta kalam vachanam brihaspatirapi bruvan labhate bahvava jnanam apamanancha pushkalam. Sorry, there is a mistake here. I have not pasted the correct Anvaya, it seems. We will do it here, and when I upload it in the class, I will make the appropriate change. Aprapta kalam vachanam brihaspatihi api bruvan labhate bahu avajnanam apamanam cha pushkalam. So aprapta kalam vachanam. So a word, a vachana, whose time has not arrived. Okay. Brihaspati rapi bruvan. So may it be Swayam Brihaspati that is speaking. Okay, does not matter. Okay, it could be Swayam Brihaspati who is expounding the Niti Sara. Okay, does not matter. If this applies even to Brihaspati, that he has to speak only at the right time, otherwise he will not be heard. Aprapta kalam vachanam brihaspatirapi bruvan labhate bahu avajnanam apamanancha pushkalam. Bahu avajnanam labhate. So what does he get in return for talking something that is not at all needed. Okay, so the recipient has to be ready for any kind of knowledge. Any kind of knowledge. Without the recipient's interest, we do not give. That is why in traditional learning, you take any field, it need not be things like, profound things like Vedanta or other Vedanta Shastra or Mimamsa Shastra, not just heavy Shastras like that, anything for that matter. You have an adhikari for the learning of each and every vidya. There is an adhikari. There has to be an adhikari. So an adhikaritva presupposes an interest on the part of the learner. He has to have the interest. We don't go and thrust around everything as, you see, basic things. Everybody has to know it. No choice. It's not like that. No Shastra is like that. No Shastra is given like that. For everything, there is an adhikari. It is given only to the adhikari. It's something that is very, very unbelievable for the modern mind, where we talk about compulsory education, compulsory this, compulsory that. There is no compulsory thrusting from the above. Traditional knowledge system, it is never like that. If you are interested, you approach the Guru. You have to express some sort of an interest from your side. Otherwise, nothing is given free of cost. So, free of cost in the sense, I'm not talking about monetary cost. There are other costs that are involved. One has to be eligible to receive something. The eligibility is always tested by the teacher. Without that, it is not given. So, saha avajnanam labhate. So, what does he get? He just gets a defamation. He is insulted. Okay. Avajnana is defamation, insult, plain insult. And pushkalam apamanancha, and a very strong apamana. Pushkalam here refers to very, very strong. Okay. Very strong apamana he gets. Okay. He deserves contempt. He is hated for talking good things. Okay. So it is not just about talking nice things, talking good things. You should know where to talk. If you do not know that, you deserve contempt. You are not worthy of respect at all. And this holds good for Brihaspati. Swayam Brihaspatehe api ayameva niyamaha. This is the niyama even for Brihaspati. Aprapta kalam vachanam bruvanna Brihaspati ravi bahu avajnanam pushkalam apamanancha labhate. Karataka aha. So Karataka, again he says, Duraradhya hi rajanaha parvata iva sarvada vyala kirna suvishamaha kathina dushta sevitaha. Duraradhya hi rajanah parvata iva sarvada vyala kirna suvishamaha kathina dushta sevitaha. So he has told this before, Damanaka, that you should not say that a Raja is Duraradhya, very difficult to please. That only expresses your own ignorance. I think we saw a verse similar to that. So, but then Karataka is again bringing the same point. He says, Duraradhyaha hi rajana. Rajas, things are very difficult to please. How? Parvataha iva. They are like mountains. Okay? It is very difficult to conquer a parvata, to climb on to a parvata, because there are going to be a lot of difficulties on the way. Dushta sevitaha kathinaha rajanaha. Rajanaha kidrishaha bhavanti iti chet te dushta sevitaha bhavanti. So most probably they will be dushta sevitas. So all those who are around the close circle of rajas are most likely dushtas, khalas. Okay, sadhus are not interested in royal service and things like that, so they stay away. But so the most likely the crooked person will climb up the ladder and he will surround the king. So prayena rajanaha dushta sevitaha bhavanti tasmat kathinaha bhavanti kathoraha bhavanti rajanaha sarvada duraradhyaha. Always difficult to please. How? Vyala akirnaha suvishamaha parvataha iva. So like mountains, they have a very, very difficult terrain, right? So suvishama, they are not samas. Okay? They are vishama, very difficult to tread. Okay, the path is so difficult. The mountainous terrain is very difficult and dangerous. Vishama, why? Because vyala akiranaha, vyalaihi akiranaha. So they are full of wild, harsh elephants. A wild elephant is called a vyala. Vyala kiranaha, suvishamaha parvataha iva. Just the way those parvatas are very, very difficult to go there, to tread the path of a mountain is very, very difficult to conquer it, in the sense to climb it. It's very difficult. Similarly, rajas are very, very difficult to please because they are always surrounded by dushtas. And they are themselves very kathinas, very hard beings, harsh beings. I think I can take questions now. Yeah, 10 minutes. See how many questions are there, and based on that, maybe another verse I will do. Distorted voice. There are 2 verses in between in the Kali edition. Okay. Harmya Haram. I don't know. I'm sorry. Maybe I can look into it and get back next week. I will think about it and I will look into it. I don't know if it is derived from there. Shlokas are missing. Is it so? I will refer to the Kali edition and once again see if I have missed any. I'll include it in the next class. Is there a book with English translation? Yes, it is there. So you can mail me. I can send you the link. But as I mentioned earlier, I wouldn't recommend reading the translation in the beginning. So that kills the joy of reading the original is what I think. So maybe, but still, if you would like to have a book, I can always give you the link. Samprajayate. So jayate means what? To be born. Samprajayate, nicely born. Okay, born. Akiranaha. So it comes from kirati dhatu. Okay, so kirana means scattered everywhere. Akirana is being there everywhere. It is full of elephants. Vyalaihi akirana. Full. The elephants are present everywhere in the mountain, and those are not ordinary gajas, but vyalaha itself refers to a wild elephant. A ferocious wild elephant is a vyala. Yoshit refers to a wife. That is all I think. Pratihara, yeah, I mentioned that it is a doorkeeper. Any other questions? If there are any, maybe we'll see one more verse and close. No questions. Is there a book with only Sanskrit text and no meaning? Yeah, Kale's book is like that. Not much of meaning is given. He has a very short commentary written that is also in Sanskrit only. It's a very nicely done work. Okay. So Karataka is giving another verse. Maybe we'll see this and close. Tathaja bhoginaha kanchukavishta kutila kruracheshtitaha sudushta mantrasadhyascha rajanah pannagaiva. Bhoginah kanchukavishta kutila kruracheshtitaha sudushta mantrasadhyascha rajanah pannagaiva. So again, so he mentioned Rajanaha, Duraradhyaha, Parvataha. They are very dangerous, like difficult to tread mountains. Now he says Rajanaha, Pannagaha. So the kings are like Pannagaha, like snakes. How? Pannaga is a bhogi. Raja is also a bhogi. What is the meaning of the word bhogi? A bhogi is the one who is interested in bhoga, pleasures. Okay, so Raja is a bhogi, he is interested in enjoying, right? So that is why Raja is a bhogi. Why is a sarpa a bhogi? Because it has got food. Okay, that is called bhoga. Okay, So it has got its hoods. That's why it is called a bhogi. Bhogi is it is referred to as sarpa also, and a person who is interested in the enjoyment of pleasures. Okay. Vishishya sensual pleasures. Okay. Kanchuka-vishtaha. Rajanaha api kanchuka-vishtaha bhavanti. Sarpaha api kanchuka-vishtaha bhavanti. Here, kanchuka refers to their, what can we say? The kavacha. Okay? So rajas are always well protected. They have their kavacha on all the time, mostly at least. Similarly, the snake also sheds its skin, right? So that is referred to as kanchuka here. It always has a layer of protection over it, which it sheds and then grows later. So that is compared to the raja's kavacha. And both of them are kutilaha. A snake is called a kutila because it's the way it goes, its movement is crooked always. And rajas are kutilaha because they are crooked people, in the sense that they are crooked in their minds. Krura cheshtitaha, both of them are merciless. They have a very krura cheshta. Okay, so when the sarpaha yada damshati, okay, when it stings, okay, behaves mercilessly, does not bother who is there at the other end or something. That's its swabhava, it expresses it. Similarly, Raja does not care for casualities. He will continue to be harsh. Krura cheshtitaha, sudushtaha, both of them are really bad. Okay, dushta jantu is what we refer to when we refer to a sarpa is a dushta jantu. It's not something that is reared at home. It is not a very sattvika pashu. It's not a very pleasing animal to raise or something. It has to be kept away. Similarly, a king is also a dushta. But mantra sadhyaha. So, despite all these qualities, there is one thing. How can a snake be tamed? It can be tamed with the help of mantra. Okay. So there are things like Garuda mantra, okay, using which you can tame a snake and bring it under your control. Similarly, through appropriate mantrana, through appropriate advice. Okay. So yaha mantranam dadati sah mantri bhavat. Okay, so the minister is a person who gives proper mantra, proper advice, proper suggestion. That is a mantra. So mantrena sadhyaha. So mantrena te vashikartum yogyaha bhavanti. So we are able to bring them under the control, under one's control. It is possible to bring the sarpa under one's control through mantra. Here mantra refers to Garuda mantra and things like that. Here, in the case of a king, he is also mantra sadhya because he can be pleased. He can be won over through appropriate advice. That is why rajas are like pannagas. You have to be aware. It is not that nobody raises a snake. Of course, there are snake charmers, right? But they are very few in number. So the job of a prime minister is a very delicate job like that of a snake charmer. One has to have both interest and aptitude for such a job. So, see, Karataka, when we look at the personality of Karataka as expressed in Panchatantra, it is not that he does not have an interest in the job. It is more like he does not have the aptitude for the job, that he wants to stay away. Damanaka seems to have both the interest and the aptitude. Both of them are required. So, in order to be the mantri for the Raja. I think we can stop here. Pannagaha. Sarpaha. Apologies, I feel there is a drift from the story with too much of advice. Yes, I also feel the same. Kind of gets boring. I was worried actually that this might just be like a lullaby to many people and it will put them to sleep. Kalpa, Vikalpa, Nirvikalpa. Kindly show the difference in meaning and usage. Maybe we'll do this next class. Okay, so close for now. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha Harihi Om.